blow out my brain if I...
What's something that you always carry with you?
Hot sauce.
I want to see that buffalo wing sauce in there. Like, what? You might say that he's gesture gooning right there.
Can't divide people. You can't win that way.
We can't divide people. All right, what's up, guys? I am Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report. It's February 25th, 2026. I have a feeling you know what today's program is about, but why don't you tell your friends about it? You can share, you can subscribe, you can tap that notification bell and all that good stuff. And yes, we are recapping the State of the Union last night, and Donald Trump really, I'll give you the bumper sticker. He just did a bang-up job. It's what he's made for, big moments and big speeches and selling America and going a little off the cuff. And of course, juxtaposing that with a Democrat party that, what was it? What was the exact number? 73 of them, I think, didn't show up at all. They held a counter event. They booed, they heckled. They generally just, anything that was pro-America, anything that is pro-America, they are just against. And let's just dive in, because this clearly was the moment of the entire night. Trump asked everyone in the building to stand up if you believe that the first duty of the American government is to protect U.S. citizens.
If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
Okay. Clever. What I say a moment ago, this is what Trump lives for. This is Trump at his best. That was a great little device that he used right there. The Democrats, I'm not a Democrat anymore. They've lost their minds, all that stuff that you know, right? But I'm just curious, in the minds of the Democrats who actually showed up in a moment like that, are you for American citizens or are you for illegals? Why can't you stand up for that? That is not actually a direct, it's not a direct comment on ICE. It's not a direct comment on anything. It's broadly, what is the point of the US government? And is it for legal citizens or illegals? And they couldn't. And they scowled and they sat on their hands, and Trump milked that freaking round of applause from the Republicans and all the sane people in that room. But there were some insane people. As I said, about 73 Democrats did not show up at all. Ilhan Omar, a woman who was caught in a massive Somali money laundering scheme, who came in to Congress worth basically nothing. Now she's worth $30 million, who married her brother in an illegal immigration scheme, who is, I would say, a de facto member of Hamas. We could continue. Here she is. Well, here's Trump firing back after she repeatedly interrupted him.
Isn't that a shame? You should be ashamed of yourself not standing up. You should be ashamed of yourself. That is why I'm also asking you to end deadly sanctuary cities that protect the criminals and enact serious penalties for public officials who block the removal of criminal aliens. In many cases, drug lords, murderers all over our country, they're blocking the removal of these people out of our country, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
Let me just be crystal clear on this one, more crystal clear than any Republican that you're going to see on TV today. Those two should be kicked out of Congress, period. I think you absolutely can make an argument that they should be naturalized and deported altogether, because it's clear that they coordinate with organizations that are terror supporters and everything else. but they should, at the very minimum, if the Democrats had anything remotely close to a sane party, at the very minimum, they would be censured. You'd have the leaders of the party putting out statements today saying that their behavior was reprehensible. You know, we'll do more on this in a moment, but Rashida Tlaib, next door, Hamas lady, she had a F ICE. I'm going to really try. You know, the more that they're cursing, I'm going to do the reverse around here. You know, I try to control it when I can, and sometimes I just can't control it, but I am going to try to control it in general a bit more because they're clearly going in that direction, and I'll offer a counterbalance to that. But she had an F ICE shirt. You know, it's shown that the State of the Union is shown on network television. I'm pretty sure ABC, NBC, CBS, C-SPAN, et cetera, they could all be in trouble with the FCC because you're not allowed. Yeah, well, there it is. We'll show it to you right there. This is the internet. Also, interestingly, Miss Hamas lady there, she has a release the files right there. Who was president before Trump this time? There was a guy, it was a pen, an old man, something Biden. Remember him? They didn't care about those files then. Now Donald Trump comes in, releases 3 million of those files, and they put out stickers on their chest because they think they can somehow pin it on him. But anyway, they were heckling the entire time. Actually, I'm going to jump ahead here for a second, Connor. I want to read this tweet. I thought this was quite interesting. This guy by the name of Matt Van Swol, we've read some tweets of his over the last year or so, was a lefty, sort of similar political trajectory as me over the years. He was in the room last night, and he wrote this. I don't know if y'all could hear it on the TV, but she was heckling Trump 80% of the time, just screaming random shit the entire time. It was insanely childish and unbelievably obnoxious. Her and Ilhan Omar acted like children, really wild to watch in person. So obviously he's talking about Rashida Tlaib. The internet came up with this image, which I think is a better version of what these two are. Yeah, they are just Muppets. They are just Muppets. They're the old guys in the Muppets. If you chop their genitals off and throw on some bad makeup and put one of them in a bag on her head, that's what they are. That's what they are. They are terrible, terrible people. They are awful Americans. They should not be members of Congress. They are here to destroy everything. And they are perfectly emblematic of what the Democrat Party has become. But don't take my word for it. If that was not true, then some Democrats today would be out there saying, you know what, like it would be so freaking easy for a decent, moderate Democrat to get up there today, and maybe Fetterman will do it today, and say, you know, I disagree with Trump on the border, and I disagree with Trump on this or that, or big, beautiful bill, or whatever it might be, but I do respect the office of the presidency, and it's not the time nor place to be heckling him through 80% of the speech and screaming things and wearing the F-bomb on your lapel over here and everything else. But none of them can do it because the crazies are running the show. So again, Trump's best moment, in some sense, his best moment was not just that he called them out on it. It's one thing to call them out on a very obvious thing, like, are you for Americans, American citizens, or are you for illegals? That was kind of obvious. But that he stood there, he milked the applause and looked at them, like the disdain he looked at them with is the disdain that every single one of us should have for them. Here's another moment, and it unfortunately involves those two clowns. This is Trump talking about how he helped reunite former Venezuelan prisoner of Maduro, Enrique Marque, with his family here in America. And you'll see at the end Tlaib and Omar walking out during that.
Uncle been released, but he is here tonight. We brought him over to celebrate his freedom with you in person. Enrique, please come down.
So do you see what's happening here? We are reuniting people with their families who were suffering under a communist dictator, and that's the moment. If you saw it in the bottom portion of the screen, I think we have a still of it. You can see the bottom portion of the screen. Yeah, there they are. That is Tlaib and Omar leaving because America reunited somebody who had American family with their brother who was suffering under the Venezuelan communist dictator. Okay. Right before the big State of the Union, Polymarket asked this question, and of course, the people were pretty clear in what they thought. Will anyone be kicked out during Trump's State of the Union address? 99% chance. So yeah, it seemed like most people were saying somebody was going to do it. And of course, half man, half wolf, Al Green. The guy's just a buffoon. He looks like the Wolfman. Like he just like, dude, just a little bit. You don't have to go crazy with the razor, but just like a little something. We could all get a little hair over here, and you can get, I think it's a Norelco, and you 2 seconds every morning, and it'll completely transform your life, bro. But of course, and nobody thinks, yes, like walking around the sun, you're so edgy. Like that's the best. That was his moment. That was his moment, and it was to tell us that black people aren't apes. Nobody thinks black people are apes. Maybe you guys do. I'm not really sure. Anyway, it continued. Now we'll get into a little bit of the media stuff around it, and then we'll get back into the speech itself. But Sean Duffy went over on CNN after, and Jake was asking him if that "these people are crazy" line was too much, because you remember Trump did several times. It seemed like it was off prompter when the Democrats were screaming, or when they wouldn't stand for American citizens or anything else. He kept saying, "These people are crazy." And it's one of those things that shows the magic of Trump, because he's reading the speech, but he can read the room. That's what it is. He can literally read a speech, but then he can figuratively read a room and feel what's going on in there. And then he can translate that through the magic of the internet and the television to you. These people are crazy, because that's what we're all thinking. Jake seemed to think that was a bit much.
He said, quote, "These people are crazy. I'm telling you, they're crazy." I mean, but that's not something we ever heard from Obama or Biden from that stage.
No, I mean, listen, we never had a speaker rip up a speech either. But when you're saying issues like, we're talking about trucking, we have, and it comes in my space, where you have states that are issuing driver's licenses to illegals who haven't been trained to drive a 80,000-pound truck on an American road. We have a little girl that had her life impacted for the rest of her life, and she's 5 years old, and it was an illegal who hit her. I think the question becomes, why doesn't every Democrat stand up and go, no, we want well-qualified drivers on American roads. That's not partisan. We don't want illegals who can't speak the language, contrary to American law for decades, to not be on American roads. I think those are easy issues, Jake.
Yeah, those are super easy issues. And if you're not on board, if you're not on the right side of those issues, you are crazy. I should mention Sean Duffy, by the way, he's transportation secretary. But Tapper, oh my God, he said these people are crazy. It's like, yeah, remember when Nancy Pelosi ripped up the speech a couple years ago?
America, thank you very much. America, thank you very much.
Like, show me the versions where Republicans are doing this sort of thing. Now, over the years, has there been any Republican who somebody did a couple years ago? Maybe we can try to figure out who heckled Biden. There was one guy that heckled Biden a couple years ago. Marjorie Taylor Greene one year yelled out something, but these are, and I'm not defending that actually. I would prefer that everyone sit there quietly, and you want to give your press conference after, you want to do all that, whatever. So I'm not defending her doing it or anything else, but it's not an entire party. Do you like America? We don't. And as a matter of fact, there was only one, count him, one Democrat who actually shook Donald Trump's hand as he walked in, and yeah, you know who it is. It is worth noting that Fetterman is even wearing a suit, so his transformation into hardcore crazy conservative who wears a suit, who shaves properly, and probably changes his underwear has fully begun. Let's talk about Ghost Bed for a minute, and then we'll get to a bit more. There's an awful lot today. Have you ever felt what people are calling being micro-tired? It's the moment when things slow down and your brain tells you it's time for a nap, but of course, you don't have time. That constant low-level exhaustion usually comes down to one thing: sleep quality. That's why Ghost Bed has been such a game changer. Ghost Bed makes some of the most incredible mattresses out there. They're award-winning with over 60,000 glowing reviews, and most importantly, people consistently say they've never slept better. Ghost Bed mattresses are designed with cooling features in every model. They actually sense your body temperature and adjust so you're never too hot or too cold. And unlike those dense foam beds that trap heat, Ghost Bed uses layers of perfectly crafted support that move with you and keep you properly aligned. Every Ghost Bed comes with a 101-night sleep trial. If you don't love it, you can return it for free and get your money back. Right now, Ghost Bed is offering their best deal of the year, plus an extra 10% off when you use code Rubin at ghostbed.com/Rubin. These prices are incredible, so don't miss it. That's ghostbed.com/Rubin, promo code Rubin. Okay, so there were a lot of nice emotional moments. There were some, things that could bring some tears. There were some things that could really bring some joy, and there were some things that could bring an awful lot of heartache. I think this was probably, this one did a little of everything, I suppose. This was when Trump gave a shout out to my friend Charlie Kirk.
I'm very proud to say that during my time in office, both the first 4 years and in particular this last year, there has been a tremendous renewal in religion, faith, Christianity, and belief in God. Tremendous renewal. This is especially true among young people, and a big part of that had to do with my great friend, Charlie Kirk, a great guy, great man. So last year, Charlie was violently murdered by an assassin and martyred, really martyred for his beliefs. His wonderful wife, Erica, is with us tonight. Erica, please stand.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I almost wanted Trump to do a little bit more about Charlie. You know, he hinted that young people are waking up because of Charlie and everything else. I almost wish there could have been a few more sentences there, and that Charlie was so vital in keeping the alliance on the right together, and you know, and all of those things. But in any event, it was a nice moment, and glad to see Erica there, and you know, all of that. The other sort of interesting moment right after that, the woman that Erica was standing next to, who was very visibly broken up, was the mother of Iryna Zarutska. And of course, Iryna Zarutska is the young, beautiful woman from Ukraine who in August was murdered on the Charlotte light rail for being white. And we know that because that's exactly what that man said. And she bled out right there. I mean, that image should be seared into everyone's brain. Here is Trump honoring the life of Iryna with her mother right there.
We are honored to be joined tonight by a woman who's been through hell, Anya Zarutska. Last summer, 23-year-old Iryna was riding home on the train when a deranged monster who had been arrested over a dozen times and was released through no cash bail stood up and viciously slashed a knife through her neck and body. No one will ever forget. There were people on that train. No one will ever forget the expression of terror on Iryna's face as she looked up at her attacker in the last seconds of her life. She died instantly. Mrs. Zarutska, tonight I promise you we will ensure justice for your magnificent daughter, Iryna.
And again, it's, you know, Trump understands, he understands television, he understands how to use emotion and all of those things, but that was real, and that was raw, and I think Trump means it. And why do the Democrats, as I always tell you, the Democrats always know the names of the illegals. Abrego Garcia, we love him. And they never say anything about the victims. They never say anything about Laken Riley. They never say anything about Iryna Zarutska, et cetera, et cetera. Now here are two more. This is wild. There were two American patriots who were shot in the back in D.C. in November of 2025 by an Afghan illegal. Do you remember this story? It was Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf and Army Specialist Sarah Beckstrom, who did not survive. Here is Trump giving them an award.
So, Andrew, while you're up, now I'm going to ask a highly respected General James Seward to present Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf and the great family of Sarah Beckstrom with the award created by our late, great President George Washington himself. It's called the Purple Heart.
All right, so Trump was doing what he does, right? In some ways, he's like a game show host, but it was real, and these were important stories, and these are people that we should all know. And what was particularly nice about it, you have to remember, whatever it is, half the country or whatever that pays attention to mainstream media or doesn't watch alt media, they don't even know these stories. They don't know that an Afghan illegal shot these two people and killed that woman. They barely know the story of Iryna Zarutska, which, by the way, was completely buried by the mainstream media until in September when online media started covering it, right? God only knows what half the country thinks about Charlie Kirk. So it was important that he points out these specific people. It shows the human part of it. This was just a really beautiful moment. Here is First Lady Melania Trump awarding 100-year-old veteran Navy fighter pilot Royce Williams the Medal of Honor. I mean, just absolutely beautiful. 100 years old, a true American hero. There's a moment right before that where Trump started speaking about him, and you could tell he couldn't quite hear it. And then when he hears it, he just lights up. It's just so absolutely beautiful. But what was the standard Democrat take on this type of thing? Well, here's Nancy Pelosi on Trump honoring the veterans.
What was your reaction to what you heard this evening?
I thought the speech was lazy. It's one thing to acknowledge patriotism and people getting well and everything when you have absolutely nothing to do with their courage or the rest, but you spend an hour and a half doing it. What is the state of the nation?
Awful human being. What are you talking about? You have nothing to do with it. Donald Trump has closed our borders, which has helped stop some of the murderers from being here. Donald Trump has helped rebuild our military so it can do great things again, which it is doing under him. You don't like that he took a moment to honor a 100-year-old veteran? Like, just the bitterness. I'm telling you guys, it is not the Democrat Party. Every one of you watching this, you've still got Democrat family members. And what you must understand, what you have to tell them is this is a whale that is rotting from the inside. So on the outside, or it's a donkey. How about we'll do it that way? It's a donkey that is rotting from the outside. So on the outside, they're looking at the donkey and they're going, oh, that's just a donkey. What was the donkey's name in Winnie the Pooh? Eeyore? Was it Eeyore? So they're just looking at Eeyore and they're going, Eeyore looks just fine. But if you poke Eeyore, your fingers are gonna go right through and what you're gonna find is a horrific rotting carcass. I've been watching a lot of Winnie Pooh with the kids and I'm definitely not gonna mention that later. Hope they're not watching today. This was an interesting moment because there was sort of a bipartisan blip for just a second. It will not last very long. But here is Trump saying something that is obvious, that everyone should be on board, which is that members of Congress and the Senate shouldn't be able to corruptly insider trade. And he did get some applause from some of the bad guys.
Let's also ensure that members of Congress cannot corruptly profit from using insider information.
All right, so that's pretty good. We shouldn't have the people who are setting the laws that get insider information about laws that affect business. They shouldn't be able to illegally profit from it. Now, it's interesting. Elizabeth Warren is applauding that. Elizabeth Warren was a professor at Harvard for a couple of years before she was a senator. And I would imagine a professor at Harvard, you're making six figures. I'm going to guess you make, I don't know, 150, 200 grand, something like that. Like, it's a decent living. She's now worth, and it's hard to figure out the exact numbers, but according to the internet, she's probably worth around $60 million now. She's been a senator for 13 years. That's quite curious. Now, that's not as impressive as Ilhan Omar in 2 years getting 30 mil after having nothing, but it was nice to see her applauding that, and maybe she won all that money on an Indian gambling casino. Who the hell knows? Here now is Nancy Pelosi addressing the insider trading thing because, of course, most of it gets pointed to Nancy Pelosi, who's worth about $400 million.
There was one moment, Madam Speaker, where he called you out specifically around, of course, congressional stock trading. What do you say back to him?
I say back to him, as that's what members said, look at your own self. The inference he wants to draw is there was something wrong with that, which there wasn't. And if there was, people get prosecuted for it. For a long time now, we've been trying to pass this law. It doesn't have, now it has more support than it had before. And
Elizabeth Warren stood up and applauded. Elizabeth Warren stood and applauded tonight when the president talked about it.
Well, we all did. I did too.
Nancy, with that 400 million, get better denture grip. Your teeth are about to fall out. I would imagine, how much does denture grip cost these days over at CVS? We're really checking the numbers today. I'm guessing you can get denture grip you can probably get a really solid extra strength denture grip. $12, lady, you've got 400 million. Now, interestingly, she's pretending she has nothing to do with any of this and we all applaud it and everything else. Can you throw this thing up here? There are many of these types. There are Twitter accounts and Facebook pages and all these things where they just basically track Nancy Pelosi's trades. And the woman so according to this, she's worth $586 million. Look at that. Her change while in Congress, she has made $465 million. I got to fire my UBS guys. What are they doing over there? Sorry, Will, love you. Which is a 384.3% jump. She's done 200 trades. Look at this. This is her win rate is 81%, and you can see on the right side there how much she's trading above the market. So again, it's more about the dentures. $12, lady. What is it? Denture grip? What do they call it? Denture grip? Soft grip. It'll solve almost all your problems. Over on CNN, the dumbest woman on television, Abby Phillip. Here she implies that Trump giving these awards and bringing these people out, that it's just a game show. It's just a game show. We should never have a human moment. We're just robots.
But he utilized almost like these game show type moments where you're seeing awards being presented to really bring these moments of togetherness that otherwise might not.
Yes, but you're saying it in a negative light. That is what he did. And by the way, they always do it. Biden does it. Obama did it. Oh, look at that person up there. His brothers, uncles, blah, blah, blah. Like, this is what they all do. Now, interestingly, because the speech really was so good and Trump stayed controlled and he had his nice applause breaks and the Democrats were acting like such little bitches and all of that, even former Obama senior advisor David Axelrod, here he is on that very same panel, basically saying the thing was pretty good, which is not what David Axelrod wants to say.
He also basically kept control of himself, which I think will be a great relief to his strategists and aides there. But the question, I think he did well from their perspective for the reasons that you say, John, and he used the gallery very skillfully to kind of simulate empathy, which is a thing that he's been lacking, and that's sort of a surrogate for that.
All right, so it's a little bit of a back and forth with him. It's to simulate empathy. I mean, Donald Trump has shown much more empathy, not suicidal empathy, but actual empathy with people who have been killed and murdered and are the victims of illegals and crime and all of those things. He's shown what empathy? I mean, I don't even want to do it. I thought maybe we would do it this morning. We would flash back to Biden's last speech where you want to empathy. He was emoting in the most crazy ways because he couldn't control his emotions because of whatever's happening to him cognitively. What empathy is it when you flood the country with all of these people who create all of the chaos? You guys pretend you have empathy. Donald Trump actually does actions that indicate that he is empathetic because he is sympathetic of the American people. He actually cares about the American people, not the illegals. Now, as all of this was happening, I think most people, the average, I know it's a little hard for those of you that watch this, guys in this room, for me, we're in the political world, right? If you're paying attention to this. But you have to remember, there's a lot of people that don't particularly care about any of this stuff, but they do tune into the State of the Union. So I thought this poll from CNN was quite telling. 64% of people who watched the speech said that President Trump's policies will move the U.S. in the right direction. 64%. Now, I think it's rather extraordinary that 36% could have watched that speech and thought, man, this guy's doing it wrong. However, 64% is an absolutely massive number. That is the type of number that would lead you to believe that if Trump can just keep doing the right thing policy-wise, if we can keep the economy chugging along, we'll get to a little more on that in a moment, if we can keep the border safe, if we can keep the deportations going, if he can continue to do the things that he laid out, then maybe the midterms will not be the bloodbath. And it is incumbent, I would say, on me and every sane American to make sure that they are not. Another beautiful moment, although Abby Phillip would say it was just a game show moment, was Trump bringing out the USA hockey team.
Prove that point. Here with us tonight is a group of winners who just made the entire nation proud. The men's gold medal Olympic hockey team. Come on in.
Oh, such a game show moment. Why would you bring on the guys who just won the gold, who beat hockey in their national sport? Why would, when we don't even really care about hockey, why would you bring them on to just make everybody happy? Maybe there are some things that can bring us together. Maybe there are some things that are beyond partisan bickering. Maybe we should all love it when America does well in the Olympics. I know these are very high hurdles to jump, but like maybe. Then, of course, Trump mentioned that he is honoring Connor Hellebuck with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. He was the goalie.
The highest civilian honor in our country, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Great athletes have gotten that, very great, the best, and I thought he deserved it. And I did take a vote, every single one of them. I said, I'm not giving it if anybody goes no, and every single one of them rapidly put up their hand. So I want to thank you. Well, what a special job you did. What special champions you are. Thank you very much.
You know, I want to drive home a point here. When they say this is game show or you shouldn't do those things or it's theater or something, it's like, no, that's the stuff that brings us together. Right? If Trump for an hour and a half just gave a speech, here are the numbers on the economy and the unemployment rate is this, and this is what I've done with foreign policy and blah, 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 blah. You know what you guys, the same people who are criticizing him for doing this would have said it was flat, it was boring, he's lost his magic, blah, blah, blah. Right? That's you know it. You know that's exactly what he would say. So he did a little of everything. That's why it really was one of his best speeches. He was juggling a whole bunch of things. Boy, I got to really show people, this is my last State of the Union before the midterms, I really got to show people that we are succeeding. And again, we'll get to more on that towards the end of the show in terms of granular stuff that we're actually doing. But I also got to show that there are bad people. Some of them are sitting right there. I have to show people that there are really victims of their policies. They're up there. I have to then do something that's celebratory. Let's bring on the USA hockey team. He did a little bit of everything. And this was just, again, when it's Trump at his best, it's when he's doing the speech, but then he goes a little bit off cuff. And this is just a nice, funny moment about who our next Secretary of Defense might be.
These are the American, the U.S. team that won the gold medal, and I got myself one great Secretary of Defense, the goalie. Hegseth is not happy to hear this.
Yeah, and it's like, obviously that was from the day before, but it's just like, that is the thing that then brings people together. Symone Sanders, a woman who has giant boobs, so they put her on television, short hair, giant boobs. She worked for Bernie Sanders. Then when that didn't work out, she worked for Hillary Clinton, even though Bernie was going against Hillary. And now she's, I guess, a person on MSN, mental institution, whatever. Here she is explaining that the hockey team was just used as props.
No one is against USA and our athletes and our Olympic athletes. They should not be being used as political props, though, and frankly allow themselves to be used as political props. And I think that is going to be the question and the discussion going forward. It is very clear why the president did this. What is unclear to me is why the men's hockey team allowed themselves to be utilized in this particular fashion.
I genuinely can't imagine being that hateful. Like, it's just so full of hate. And I don't want to make a joke of the size of her breast. She's a boob. How about that? She's just a boob. It's irrelevant whether it's a double D or a triple F or whatever else. That's just fine. But like, lady, what are you saying? If Joe Biden or Barack Obama did it, you'd be creaming in your pants. Okay, that's what's going on here. You don't like Donald Trump. So they let themselves be used. Think how insane that is. These kids go out there. They win the gold medal. They get to go to the Oval Office. The next day, it happens to be the State of the Union, and they get to walk in there with their gold medals after just hanging with the president. The president gets to give them a shout out. Unfortunately, 73 Democrats didn't show up, but otherwise it would have basically been the entire United States government would be standing and giving them applause and everything else. And they're the pawns in the game. Or maybe they're actually the true Americans and you're not. I think that's what it is. Speaking of people who are not true Americans, outside of the Capitol yesterday, disgraced former television host from the televised mental institution, now known as MSNOW, Joy Reid, she had a little event. Unfortunately, nobody showed up, but that didn't stop her from cursing.
One note, we just want to do sort of one housekeeping note. Attention all MAGA trolls. And with apologies to the pastor who gave the invocation, your bullshit is not welcome here. And to paraphrase one of my favorite actors in the world, Robert De Niro, I'm going to slightly paraphrase him. Y'all.
All right, so basically nobody showed up there, and I really do mean it, guys. I am really, I always do, but I am really going to try to control the F-bombs going forward. You can see what these people are doing. So her to get up there like she's such a badass, right? That she can say F, right? Like, you're so bad, but they're all doing it now. Can we show this other image? You might remember Katie Porter, who's a complete progressive lunatic out of California. There she is at a campaign rally. That's from a few days ago. That's Rashida Tlaib last night. Like, this is what they have left. And you know that quote from, what was it, Michelle Obama? When they go low, we go lower. How about we do it the other way? And it's going to be a bit of a challenge. It's going to be a bit of a challenge, particularly for me, because I want the show to be funny and silly also. But let's be a little bit better than them right now. They're at the bottom of their barrel because their ideas are bad. All they've got is F that guy. He's a Nazi. But we've done this for 10 years. So let's just be better than that. Though I want to say some really terrible things about this lady. Here's that lady that scares small children.
And yes, our trans kids across this country who are sick and tired of being bullied because it's not trans kids driving up your rent. It is the billionaires doing that. We are standing up for our trans kids across the country.
How insane are these people? How insane are these people? Put aside that they're combining the trans kid thing with the billionaire thing. It's completely absurd. People who are against transing children would just prefer that young people whose brains aren't developed aren't chemically castrated before they have been able to grow up enough to know what they are fully doing to their body and what they are doing to their future and everything else. And you somehow want to combine that with the fact that you don't like that there are certain people out there who are successful because they create things and create industries and create jobs and all of the rest of it. But it's not just that scary witch lady. It's also this nutbag.
I will not stand by while they target transgender people, demonizing trans kids, banning them from schools and sports, and trying to erase their very existence from public life. Trans rights are human rights.
All right, that's Ed Markey, and everything he said there is complete nonsense. What trans kid has been banned from school? What parents don't want is sending their son, Chris, to 3rd grade and finding out that for months, secretly, the teachers have been calling him Christine and putting him in a dress. As for the sports thing, I mean, it's so boring talking about this in some sense, but like, as for the sports thing, it's just that we would prefer that boys not kick the crap out of girls. But you guys, this is how radical the Democrat Party has become, and use this as a heuristic going forward. I am telling you, and I don't even mean this to be sarcastic, if there is an issue, whatever the issue is, they are on the wrong side of it. Quite literally everything, whether it is the border, whether it is taxation, whether it is trans stuff, whether it is anything related to race, whether it is foreign policy at this point, whatever the issue is, it is a very simple heuristic. Which side are the Democrats on? You should pretty much be on the other side of that. That is sad and pathetic, but it is true. Here's Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen. We haven't shown this guy in a while. This is the guy who had a major dude crush on Abrego Garcia, who was a human trafficker from El Salvador who beat his ex-wife with a boot, and then he went to have margaritas with him in San Salvador. Here he is. He likes that guy, but he doesn't like Trump.
We are gathered here because we know that we cannot pretend that any of this is normal, and that we will not and must not pretend that this is business as usual. We must get in the way of Donald Trump's march toward fascism.
Yes, Donald Trump's march towards fascism, closing the border and making sure Americans are safe, stop having people be murdered on the light rail because of their skin color. We'd prefer that some of our service members don't get murdered in DC for no reason. That's the march to fascism. Actually, if you had a mirror, buddy, you guys are the fascists. When you were in power for 4 years under Joe Biden, what is fascism? Fascism is the government working with corporations against the people. You guys literally, it is not conjecture or a rumor or anything else, you quite literally worked with big tech, you admitted it, to silence the American people, violating our First Amendment rights. So if anyone's the fascist here, it's you. I've never seen this woman before, but she's a real gem out of Jersey. This is New Jersey Democrat Representative Bonnie Watson Coleman, and she's going Jersey on their asses if ICE shows up in that
because
smelly
they're
state.
gearing up in New Jersey now. But New Jersey is gearing up for ICE. We want you to know that we're going to be ready when you come here. So you think you saw something in Minneapolis? You come to New Jersey. We may be small, but we're freaking mighty. I want to give Nettie an opportunity to talk to you about how we organize, get ready, and take care of one another.
Good luck, Jersey. Where is Tony Soprano when you need him? Where is Paulie? Where's Silvio? Where's the rest of them? Like, what are you saying, lady? You're going to be more violent than they were in Minnesota? And why is it that you don't care about the actual taxpayers of New Jersey? The guy who just wants to drive to the Meadowlands, smoke a cigarette, have a bagel, have a piece of pizza, get a cannoli, maybe shoot somebody, bury him, go back, have a nice gabagool. Why don't you care about that guy? Okay, because that guy's a lot better than you. So let's bring this thing full circle. I think we've fairly well today, we've illustrated that Donald Trump said nothing. I mean, I really mean this. He said nothing radical last night. He said nothing hateful. He said nothing far right or anything else. He made simple, fairly simple, obvious pro-America positions, and he illustrated that the Democrats are completely insane. So let's once again quickly show you where we started today.
If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
That's right. It was obvious and clean and simple. So then on CNN afterwards, Scott Jennings, the one sane guy, who's over there, they sat down, they're doing like a little bar type situation with some Michigan voters, and they talked about that moment.
I think the part of the speech that's probably going to live on for most Republicans is when he asked the Congress, stand up if you think your duty is first to American citizens before illegal aliens. Republicans stood up. It gave him his most sustained applause for the night. I suspect, man, you're going to see this in a lot of campaign ads, that Democrats wouldn't stand up. What did you all think of the showmanship of that, or of sort of the spectacle of trying to get Democrats to stand up for that?
Well, I think the point, I think that you know, and it may have gotten a little muddled, but, you know, in the showmanship, but I think his point is valid. Everybody in that room represents the citizens in this country. And are you doing your job? He should, you know, the governor asked, is Trump doing his job? Trump asked, are all of you doing your job?
Give that guy a job. How about that guy? Who is that guy? That guy should have the 8 p.m. slot. Abby Phillip should show up today and go to sit in her chair over there, and that guy should be there and go, sorry, lady, I've got the gig. That was the brilliance of it, right? Like that, and that's why, Abby, when you say it's a game show and you're kind of insulting him, or Nancy Pelosi, you did the same thing, you know, he's using these props and everything. It's like, no, he's illustrating. A picture is worth 1,000 words, so a video is worth a lot more, and human moments are worth a lot more than that. And he did a little bit of everything, and all you guys had to do, well, first off, 73 of you that didn't show up, you should have shown up. And those of you that had their counter protest outside, where some of the ones that didn't show up, they were walking around with frogs in costumes. I mean, they're completely insane. They're screaming about the chemical castration of children and trying to connect it to billionaires. They could not be more crazy. So the challenge, the great challenge, is upon us. We have 8 months to make sure that the things that Donald Trump laid out continue to come to fruition, or they will chop all our genitals off. Have a nice day. Post-game show in 30 seconds, RubinReport.locals.com.
I'll trade you that for a pen.